Good evening and welcome to Alberta Primetime. I'm Michael Higgins.
And I'm Shauna Randolph. Are we raising the anxious generation? According to many child psychologists, today's parents are. These days, anxiety among children is 5 times more prevalent than when their grandparents and great-grandparents were growing up.
And according to the experts, environmental influences are to blame, not a change in genetics.
These days, 1 in 8 kids struggle with anxiety, according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. That's a rate that has increased by 50% in the last 30 years. Sadly, only 20% of children who need treatment are actually getting it. What is the cause of the increase in childhood anxiety? And how can parents help their children through it, or better yet, prevent this in the first place?
And here with insight is Tammy Schamuhn, Registered Psychologist with the Institute of Child Psychology and Family Counseling Centers. Nice to have you in studio here, Tammy.
Thank you for having me.
So what goes through your mind hearing those statistics that the rate of children struggling with anxiety is increasing?
I think it's just alarming as a professional and as a parent myself that we're seeing this escalation with our kids. And I'm sure even I know teachers struggle a lot with this as well. And daycares, it's not just parents. It's anybody who works with kids.
And it's not just in our country.
No, we're seeing this all over the world. And so our job is to say what's going on, what's happening here, and what can we do to heal our kids and prevent this even from happening in the first place.
Well, you're known for saying, quote, our genetics haven't changed, so it has to be the environment. So what does that mean? Why is this happening?
Well, we know that, anytime we have a mental health disorder, that part of it's genetics and part of it's environment. And a big thing we're seeing is genetics don't change that much within a couple generations. It takes time. So to us, we're saying that there has to be something that's in the environment that's contributing to this. So what could that be? And my job as a psychologist and as a teacher is to educate the public on what we can do to be better advocates for kids and how to get them the help they need, or best of all, be proactive about it, so we don't have kids who need treatment in the first place.
I think a lot of this does stem from the parents and the children picking up that stress from them.
Yeah, I would say the number one reason we see escalating anxiety is a lack of security in kids. And kids need warm, caring, and consistent attachments. So adults in their lives who can provide signals of safety and security so kids can manage anxiety. It creates almost like a buffer. A protective factor in terms of them being able to manage stresses in life. And so when we have parents maybe who are also stressed out, or you have kids in care with adults whom they don't have a good relationship with, we have kids who every signal is saying, things aren't safe, things aren't right, I don't have someone by my side to protect me. Or my protector is also scared, so how am I supposed to feel safe if everyone around me is buzzing with anxiety too? So it just leaves kids really unsettled.
And how much does technology play a role in this?
This is a really interesting piece that we've been focusing on a lot with our institute lately, is the alarming statistics around technology and how that plays an impact. And I think it's twofold, really. It's what does technology do to anxiety, being the first one, and we know that it increases stress in the body. And whatever a child sees, the brain believes. It's just how we're built. And so with social media and TV and all these images flooding kids' brains, they believe the world is very unsafe. When we know crime hasn't increased a lot in 30 years, and Canada is safer than it was now than 30 years ago. But kids feel like it's not, and adults feel like it's not safe. And the other piece is how technology impacts the relationships parents have with their kids. Parents are less likely to play with their kids, engage in conversation, spend family time together when they're on their devices, or kids are on their phones, or they're on their Xbox, or whatever, the computer, or their iPad.
And then on top of all that, families are just so busy these days with so many activities for kids.
Yeah, I think that we talk a lot about in our seminars about how kids are too overscheduled. We've got 10-year-olds expected with expectations of 16-year-olds now. They're being carted from class to class to class, and I believe parents are really doing this out of love. They want to give their kids an edge, but really we're stopping kids from being able to get the skills they need to protect them from anxiety. And so what we need is to slow down and to spend time together, and kids need to play. And we talk a lot about play at our institute, how important play is. And just decrease of overwhelm that we're giving kids. We're overwhelming them with choices and too much stuff and too many activities.
And then not seeing perhaps the signs of anxiety. Quickly, what are they? What are you looking for?
Well, first I want to preface, anxiety itself is not bad. It's when you have too much of it. So anxiety is actually a protective factor in that it keeps us safe. So I don't want parents to think that anxiety necessarily is a bad thing. It's just when anxiety is a constant state of being that it becomes a problem. But for kids who are in a constant state of stress, they're overwhelmed all the time. We often see this in the body first. They get headaches and tummy aches, and they can't sleep. They have a hard time sleeping. They get racing thoughts. Some kids get sick. They have panic attacks, and they get nauseous, and they'll actually get sick. They can throw up. Like I said, avoidance is another big one. We're not wanting to go to things, being very clingy, sticking to parents. But we even see it in temper tantrums. Kids who are constantly in a state of overwhelm can become oppositional and even violent when we're overwhelmed, because we don't just have a freeze response, an avoidance response when we're anxious. There's a fight response that's also part of anxiety. So some kids can get very aggressive or even inattentive. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they're diagnosed with attention deficit when they're just anxious, especially boys. We see that more with boys.
So with this topic, there's so many people that come to you. It's on the top of mind with a lot of parents. I understand the Institute of Child Psychology is presenting its first annual Children's Mental Health Conference in April.
Yeah.
Focusing on this, the signs of that and prevention.
Yeah, I mean, we are hosting topics on not just anxiety. This is probably our primary course that we sell out would be anxiety. But whether it's depression or divorce or trauma, we have simplifying, fostering attachment, technology, understanding anger in kids, depression, those sorts of things. So we have quite a few different topics of local psychologists who specialize in these fields to help. And we try to take a more proactive approach to mental health versus like a reactive approach.
Okay, this will be touched on it, but just quickly to our viewers watching, what's the bottom line here for prevention with this growing trend here with so much anxiety in children?
I think is focus on relationships and slowing down and the too muchness, that we need to do less, not more. Believe it or not, less is more with kids, and we need to simplify things.
And then get the help if that is the case.
Yeah, and get the
with your
help. And
child,
Edmonton's
too.
great. We have so many resources in Edmonton, one of the best places in the world for mental health in terms of access to care. So that's always exciting being in Alberta. It's very up and coming for mental health.
Tammy, thank you very much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate all of this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That is Tammy Schamuhn. She is a registered psychologist with the Institute of Child Psychology and Family Counseling Centers.